When will the Grand Egyptian Museum fully open? Can I get tickets to the Grand Egyptian Museum? Is there a soft opening of the Grand Egyptian Museum, and what can I see? I've been getting all of these questions, and since my last video on the gem was a few months old, I decided it's time to make an update video to talk about the Grand Egyptian Museum, everything that's happened in the last few months, and what we know about the full opening. I'm Gus with Egypt Adventures Travel. I make customized itineraries for trips to Egypt. I connect travelers with vetted and trusted local guides and tour companies I work with. And I also lead private tours and group tours myself. You can get in touch via email, gus@egyptadventurestravel.com. I'm looking forward to hearing from you and helping you plan your Egypt adventure. Some quick background before we talk about the Grand Egyptian Museum. There are three main museums in Cairo that focus on ancient Egypt and pharaonic history. There's the original Egyptian Museum in Cairo at Tahrir Square. This museum will never close. It has remained open throughout the construction of the Grand Egyptian Museum, and it's not cleared out of all the artifacts because there are more artifacts in storage at the original Egyptian Museum than they even have on display. So this is museum number 1 in Cairo that focuses on ancient Egypt. Right now, this museum still has Tutankhamun's funerary mask as of the making of this video. Eventually, that piece, along with the rest of the King Tut pieces, will be moved over to the Grand Egyptian Museum. But right now, the main King Tut pieces are still on display at the original Egyptian Museum in Tahrir Square. The second museum is the National Museum of Egyptian Civilization. The highlight of this museum's collection are the 22 royal mummies of different pharaohs and queens throughout ancient Egypt's New Kingdom period. This museum is fairly new, just opened up several years ago, and the mummy gallery is only about 2 years old. Now, the third museum, the one that hasn't fully opened yet that everyone is talking about, is the Grand Egyptian Museum, or GEM for short. So that gives you a little bit of context in case you're new to the game on the 3 different museums in Cairo you can go to see ancient Egyptian artifacts. The Grand Egyptian Museum has been open since the spring for a soft opening. Visitors can go to the gem and they can see the hanging obelisk outside in the courtyard of the museum. They can go into the Great Hall and see several colossal statues like the massive statue of Ramses the Great. They can visit the different restaurants and the gift shop of the museum, and they can take a glimpse at some of the other parts of the museum that are not yet fully open to the public. I just heard back though last week from one of the heads of the guest experience at the Grand Egyptian Museum, and they also said that there is a special tour that is available that allows visitors to go up the grand staircase. So this staircase, I haven't been able to show it in videos or photos because the one time that I tried to take a video of it, I was told very sternly to turn off my video because they're not ready for that part to be shown to the public yet. But essentially, it is a massive staircase that goes up probably the equivalent of 4 or 5 stories. And along the staircase are all of these beautiful statues. The paperwork from the Grand Egyptian Museum says that there are 64 statues in total that can be viewed. So now the gem is announcing that there's this special tour that visitors can go on. They can do all the stuff from the soft opening, and then they can walk up the staircase and take a look at all of the different pieces that are on that ascension. But the ticket price for this is $1,050 US. So in my opinion, I think it's much, much better to just wait until the Grand Egyptian Museum is fully open, because there is no way that a ticket to go to the Grand Egyptian Museum is over $1,000. And this is just one staircase with 64 statues. There are going to be tens of thousands of artifacts in the gem on display when it's fully open. And paying that $1,000 does not get you access to any of the galleries, doesn't get you access to the King Tut gallery, doesn't get you access to viewing any of the other areas where ancient Egyptian artifacts are on display. But there is that new special tour that's available. There also was a tour that I was made aware of that's an evening tour that's combined with a meal. So you get to go to the Grand Egyptian Museum in the evening, you get to see all of the stuff for the soft opening, and then you have a catered meal. So there's some more details about that tour in case you're interested. If you want to buy tickets to go to the Grand Egyptian Museum because you're going to be in Egypt, and even though it's a soft opening, you still want to say that you've at least been to the gem, you can go to a new website. So my previous video, the website was different. Now they've got a new website. It's www.visit-gem.com. And on that website, you'll see options to buy tickets in advance online. The ticket price for foreigners is currently 1,000 Egyptian pounds. At today's exchange rate, at the making of this video, that's about 32 US dollars. And to see all the stuff that you will see when you visit the gem for a soft opening, you can head to my previous video where I go into the Grand Egyptian Museum and show you the different statues and the different areas that are currently open to the public. So just so you can get a little sneak peek and see what you would see if you do decide to add the Grand Egyptian Museum to your Egypt trip, if you're there before it's fully open. And speaking of the opening, that's the last thing I wanted to chat about. There have been several news articles and different announcements and different talk that's been going on for the past few months, but nothing has been concrete yet. So we still don't have an actual date for the grand opening of the museum. When we do have a date, I know that it's going to be announced very widely because Egypt has made it clear that they want to have as many people as possible at the grand opening of the gem. So we're going to hear about it. It's going to be a lot of fanfare. Something that we can expect to happen before the grand opening of the gem is an announcement of the moving of the final Tutankhamun pieces from the original Egyptian Museum in Tahrir Square over to the Grand Egyptian Museum. So we haven't even had an announcement of when King Tut's funerary mask is going to move yet. So until we know that that mask is moving over, there's not going to be a grand opening of the Grand Egyptian Museum. They might announce the moving of the mask and have the opening be, that announcement might happen really close together. But until we hear about the movement of the mask, I'm guessing we're not going to hear about an opening date for the Grand Egyptian Museum. Even though we don't have an actual opening date yet, what's been talked about is I keep seeing October through March. So that's the window that Egypt keeps talking about opening up the Grand Egyptian Museum. There's lots of news articles that have been coming out about this. They keep making announcements talking about things like the artifacts inside are 75% installed, which I don't even trust any of these numbers anymore because in the past they kept saying the gem was 98% completed, but then they later said, oh, that was the exterior that's 98% completed. Now we're working on the interior and it's 82% completed. Now it's 99% completed. So now I guess they're talking about the artifacts. So now we're 75%. So I don't really trust any of that stuff, but they keep making announcements and talking about things in kind of an esoteric way, but nothing concrete yet. Keep hearing October through March. That's Egypt's high season, so it makes sense that they would want to open the Grand Egyptian Museum at that time, but we just don't know yet. We don't have a concrete date. If you would like to get updated on the Grand Egyptian Museum, a great way to do that is to subscribe to this YouTube channel, because I'm going to make announcements anytime there's something big happening relating to the gem. You can also sign up for my email list. That's on my website, egyptadventurestravel.com. Scroll down to the bottom, and then you can sign up to get email updates. I also send out an email to my subscribers anytime I hear any big news about the gem. So there's two ways that you can stay updated about the Grand Egyptian Museum. And of course, like I've been saying since the start, if the Grand Egyptian Museum is going to make or break your Egypt trip, do not start planning your trip, in my opinion. Maybe start watching videos and get some ideas, but do not start booking flights, do not start booking hotels until the gem has been opened. Not even they announce the opening. I would wait until it's actually been confirmed that it's been opened and you've seen people be able to go inside and visit. Then I would start the planning process for your trip, because we just have no idea, even if they announce that it's going to open on February 1st, if that actually is going to happen. This is Egypt. Anything can happen. We've seen in the past they've made announcements of different opening dates and nothing has ever come to fruition. So I always tell people, do not make those plans until it's actually open if the gem's going to make or break your trip. However, I always also tell people that Egypt has so many things to see and experience, and all of my guests who've been in Egypt over the last few years since the start of my company, every single one has said that the gem opening or not opening didn't have an impact on their trip because there were so many other things to see. You can go to Karnak and Luxor temples, the Valley of the Kings, the original Egyptian Museum, the brand new National Museum of Egyptian Civilization. Everything in Alexandria is still open. You can go to Abu Simbel. There are so many things to do and see in Egypt that one museum is not going to be the be-all, end-all to a trip. So I always tell people, you don't even need to wait until the gem is open. If you've been dying to go to Egypt, just go. So there's an update on the Grand Egyptian Museum. We talked about how to get tickets. We talked about a brand new, very overpriced tour that's available that allows you to see a little bit more. We speculated on when the gem is going to fully open. We also talked about the other museums in Egypt that focus on ancient Egypt to just give people an overview. So hopefully we'll be hearing back soon about an actual opening date for the gem, or we'll see that King Tut funerary mask move over. But until then, I'm still here to help folks plan their trips to Egypt. I'm Gus with Egypt Adventures Travel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.